Newsroom. You're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell, and we're brought to you by Papa John's Pizza. Go online to papajohns.com and order your pizza anytime. Barry, time for 5 and 5. Questions of all sorts. Let's get right to it with this. Scale of 1 to 10. How successful was OU's basketball season?
I'm going to say a 7. I don't think you can go much higher than that. I mean, a 10 is a Final Four or a national championship, maybe a Final Four and Big 12 championship combined. A 9's Elite 8. An 8's a Sweet 16, but it was a Sweet 16 without the Big 12 title. So 7 or 8. It's not to besmirch the Sooners, though. I think it's a very successful season to get to the Sweet 16, to be the last Big 12 team standing with most of the guys who are coming back next year. A very good season. I'll give it a 7.
I'm going to go 8, and I think you're right. I think 8 does sort of, you need that Sweet 16 level. And I think I elevate it to an 8 over maybe a 6 or a 7 because the team you lost to is now going to the Final Four, and you were right there with them. So I think the fact that, you were essentially, trading blows with the team that's now getting ready to try to play for a national championship, I think speaks pretty highly of where OU is. Yeah, it was disappointing that they didn't quite get themselves in position to at least play for the Big 12 championship that last Saturday of the year. That disappointing loss at Ames and losing some leads. I mean, to me, that takes a little shine off of it. But Michigan State has elevated, I think, the way that the season fell just because they continue to win. And I tell you, if they play for a national championship, that loss to them looks even better for OU. All right, let's do a little true-false, Barry. True-false. Oklahoma City is in jeopardy when it comes to NCAA hoops regionals. We asked this question because we saw poor attendance at the women's regional over the weekend.
Well, I think the answer is yes. I think Oklahoma City is in jeopardy. We saw poor attendance, was it 2010 when we last hosted a men's regional. And we even had Kansas here, which usually is a ticket to success. I think Oklahoma City once was a prime spot for these regionals, but the success of the Thunder has done a couple things. One, it has taken some of the money that's available, discretionary income, discretionary spending for sports fans has gone a lot to the Thunder. And the other thing is, I think people's appetite for college basketball has subsided. We're just not as excited about college hoops as we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Lon Kruger's got an outstanding team. The crowds at Norman have not really responded. The crowds at Stillwater have been lethargic for many years. I think we are in danger. Get a regional in 15, do well, we're fine. But if we don't, it might be the end of it for a while.
Yeah, I do think it is true. And, Oklahoma City, they've got a men's sub-regional next year, another women's regional in 2 years. So I think there's a chance to show that these poor regional attendances, it's just a blip. We can overcome it. We can do better. We can have fans turn out. But I do think if you continue to have poor showings, especially in succession year after year after year, the NCAA has got to look at that. Now, I will say this. Oklahoma City swings the scale when it comes to their management of these events. Tim Brassfield, the All Sports Association, they do it probably as well as any city, any group, anywhere in the country. They've got great experience. Obviously, the Women's College World Series, other regionals, other events. They continue behind the scenes to do a fantastic job. I think that everybody, when it comes to what's happening off the floor with the teams and the management of the event, I think the NCAA loves that. But how long does that trump not having a full arena, not having people in the seats, not having that championship field? They've got to at least be mindful of it. And if these next two events that come aren't any better, I think it could really, really hurt Oklahoma City in the future. All right, Barry, what's worse in Oklahoma? Home Thunder game on Christmas or Easter? We now have an Easter game at high noon on Sunday, Barry. What's worse?
Well, to date, it's going to be Easter because of the tip-off time. I don't have a problem with playing on Christmas. I don't have a problem playing on Easter. But when you tip off at noon either day, you're really messing with the schedule. On Christmas Day, you have all kinds of things on the morning. You have all kinds of lunch plans with your family. By Christmas night, the holiday's almost over. Really, in my mind, Christmas Day goes from about 6 p.m. Christmas Eve to 6 p.m. Christmas night.
That's fair.
If you play a night game on Christmas, which I think we've had two, Christmas night games here, it's not any big deal. But you play at 1 o'clock on Christmas Day, you're messing with people's schedule, and that's what you're doing playing at noon on Easter. You're messing with people's family plans. You're messing with their church plans. The biggest day of the Christian church is Easter, and so I think it's a terrible schedule. The Thunder's beholden to the networks. Whatever the networks say is what happens. So it's not really negotiable. But man, anything other than a noon or 1 o'clock game on either one of those days would be much preferable.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't know if the Thunder can request not to have that time. Obviously with the Christmas Day games, it's unlikely that we'll ever have one of those early tips. Like, I think the NBA starts their first games 11 o'clock Oklahoma time or around there, but they're usually East Coast games. So, there's a chance, obviously, the Thunder is on the East Coast and people might have to, watch the Thunder game in their pajamas from their living room, but they're not having to go to the game. I doubt we'll ever have a noon start here because you've got so many East Coast games that will start earlier. There's usually 2 out east that you see tip before the Thunder would. So Christmas Day, I think we're pretty solid, but I have to think that the Thunder's going to hear from some fans when it comes to this Easter noon tip. I agree with you, Barry. If it was 2:30, 3 o'clock, even 6 o'clock, the normal Sunday night tip time, I don't think you'd see people quite as up in arms, but this is tough. People are going to have to make decisions based on, are we going to go to lunch after church? Are we going to go to early church? A lot of questions. I can't imagine the Thunder wants this one again. All right, Barry, our fun question of the week, your sports crush. And we asked this because we've learned that this NCAA tournament, the Wisconsin players, they're fascinated and maybe a bit infatuated by the stenographers who transcribe the press conferences. Barry, we love those stenographers because they do it for us. But is there any unheralded person or persons in sports who you'd want to give a little love to?
There actually is. And you know what it is? It's at college basketball games, the pep bands. I love the pep bands, especially at the tournament. Here's the deal. The pep bands travel with the teams. They fly out from Norman or Stillwater and go to Omaha or Columbus or wherever, wherever your team happens to go. They travel with the team, and then when they land, they're separated. And they go about their business, and frankly, I don't know what they do. They land at, let's say, OU lands in Columbus at 5 o'clock on Wednesday night. They don't have to do anything. The pep band doesn't have to do anything until 7 p.m. Friday night. So they got 48 hours to kill, and somehow they stay out of the newspapers. They don't get in trouble. And then come game time, here they are blaring the school songs, doing a great job creating atmosphere. I think they really do a service to the tournament. And it's one of the few things I like about college basketball over the NBA is the live music. I think those pep bands do a great job. And then later they come meet back up at the airport, hook up with the team, get on the plane, and fly home. And I'll say this, I once flew home with the Sooners from Milwaukee 16 years ago. Couldn't get a flight out after the Sooners made the Sweet 16. OU offered us a ride on their charter. We got on. They gave me a middle seat between 2 band members. I go down towards the back. I find my seat. I say, excuse me, I'm in the middle. The guy says, no problem. I'll scoot over. I got an aisle seat all the way home.
You love the pep band. NBA pep bands. There's an idea.
That's an idea whose time has come.
That's right. Okay, get right on that, Thunder. Okay, I don't know if I love these people, but I surely respect them. Those are the people that run elevators at arenas and stadiums. Barry, we see them all the time, people that take us up to the press box, but they're all over. They're running the elevators to the club level, to all sorts of levels. They're in the arena for a game, lots of times big ones. They never see a minute of it. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to be in a small space like that for a long period of time. So major props to the people who run those elevators. I don't know how you do it.
What do you mean you don't know how they do it? You mean you don't know how they stand it?
Right, I don't know how they stand it.
I don't know why they exist. Why can't people run their own elevators? We used to have, every elevator used to be operated by somebody, and then somebody said, you know what? People can really just sort of do this themselves.
Maybe we found something we need. NBA pep bands, something we don't need.
There you go.
People in those elevators during games. Let them go watch, for crying out loud. Okay, lastly, Barry, back to the serious stuff. Is anyone to blame for the way Kevin Durant's injury has played out?
Oh, the truthful answer is probably no. Sometimes injuries just happen, and no one on planet Earth that I know of involved wants anything but the best for Kevin Durant. So I think the answer is no. I have some questions. I don't know why Durant and Westbrook keep going to independent sources for their for their surgeries that end up having to require more surgeries. You know, after a while, I would think maybe we'll just try the Thunder Doctors and see if we don't have to get cut on 2 or 3 times. And I certainly, you know, as I've said, I certainly wish that someone, when Kevin Durant starts limping, gets him out of the game instead of sit there and talk, I wonder what's wrong with Kevin. Let's get him out of the game. Next time he starts limping, I think that'll happen. But for the most part, it's just a bad curse. Nobody could do anything about it.
You know, there's been a lot of people that we've heard from, you know, there's probably a lot of you out there that have, you know, searched for answers. I've heard everything from, you know, it's his shoes to, you know, all sorts of things. So people want to find somebody to point to. There's not really anybody, but sort of in your line of thinking, the questions that are out there, you know, I sort of question the type of hardware that they put in his foot, which required the second procedure that then led to the backtracking of the injury, that screw that was too long. I mean, this guy's got a foot that's about this wide. He's got the flattest feet I think you'll ever see. I can't imagine putting a screw in there that was hardly, you know, any size at all without thinking, you know, that could really be a problem. That to me is a question I have. You know, what, and I'm not a doctor clearly, but you know, you just wonder what could have been done differently. And I think people will ask that for a long time to come, because this is clearly a season with the way that Russell Westbrook is playing, the way that the bigs are emerging. You think, man, what could have been if Kevin Durant could have been healthy? And those questions, they're just human nature. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.